Hello there, Dino here. Slightly different start to the Dinosaw this week. The only reason you're watching this is probably because you clicked on a link from within Sky, and that's why you got this slightly special intro. It's my last week at Sky this week, so if you got a notification from Yammer or something like that, then it'll be the last time you get one of those. So if you do want to watch the Dinosaur again in the future, then I suggest you head over to the YouTube channel and subscribe and do all that good stuff, and then you'll get a notification from there in your email every Monday. Broadly speaking, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, something like that. So if you've enjoyed these over the last couple of years, then thank you so much. Really do appreciate everybody who's commented and watched and all the good energy around it as well. I will hopefully see you over on the YouTube channel. Good luck, have a great future, and hopefully I'll meet you again. Hello and welcome to the Dinosaur for week 30, another 7 curious interesting things I saw last week. So as ever, let's crack on. First one is news from TikTok land. This is the latest craze and is NPC streamers. Now NPCs are non-playing characters. You might see them littered in other games like Grand Theft Auto, for instance. You can't play as them, but they're just there. They are the public or they are the enemy or whatever it is. They're non-player characters. So what the TikTokers are doing is they are mimicking the actions of the NPCs, and you watch them live and you give them gifts. Depending on the gifts that you give them, they will do the action. And that's pretty much it. If you go onto TikTok or just Google, I guess, you will find loads of these people doing this. So Pinky Girl gets apparently $7,000 a day for doing this. So that's not a bad living. I kid you not. There you go. This is a mechanical neural network. Now, you might have heard of neural networks. You might have seen those diagrams, which are sort of things on this side and layers and layers and layers and layers, and then things come out the other side. This is mimicking it. Like, that's pretty much the diagram. This is what it's mimicking in a physical way. So you've got actuators on the left-hand side that if you apply a force, a known force to the left-hand side, you want a certain maybe structure on the right-hand side to come out. So for instance, if you do equal force on the left-hand side, you want a sine wave to happen on the right-hand side. But likewise, if you then have a slightly different input on the left-hand side, you might want an inverse sine wave to come out of the same system. So what this is learning to do is each node in a neural network pretty much does that. For every input, it figures out how to change itself to get a given output, and this is doing it in a physical way. I might have mullered that description completely, but definitely have a look at the URL. If you've ever tried to figure out what a neural network is, this is a really good way of doing it because it's visual. It's absolutely brilliant. It uses these actuators. So well done to Jonathan Hopkins, especially his students as well, who have put this thing together. This is Fable Studios, and they are creating full episodes of South Park using AI. So they're using what they've called multi-agent, so each one of the characters can then use its back history. They're using stable diffusion to generate the characters. They are generating the voices. They are generating the animation. But it uses a bit of structure as well, because obviously if you use this kind of what they call a slot machine thing, where it just randomly will feed something out next, what it actually does is says, right, we'll take your plot that you give at the beginning in your prompt, and we'll put it into a structure, which is a sort of a 14 scene structure. So it makes sense as an actual episode. So they kind of make sense. So watching it, you would probably know this wasn't actually a real South Park episode. So where's this going? Well, this pretty much means that if you are a fan of South Park, for instance, and you get access to this, then you can make up your own episodes, and who knows, you might be able to license them. There you go. It's almost like what Grimes is doing with their voice. So they are allowing their voice to be used for music tracks. This might be the future of cartoons. The US, this is the IoT Cybersecurity Trust Mark, believe it or not. So this will appear on IoT devices, and we'll reassure you that the device you are getting has got all the good stuff in it, i.e. it is secure, it doesn't use a standard password on setup, for instance, and also it is updatable, all the things that you would want from your IoT devices. This has now gone through, I think this has actually been ratified, but it won't actually appear until next year, so only in the US at the moment. I think the UK is thinking of a similar thing as well. It will appear next to a QR code. The QR code will give you all the information about the device and how it was certified. There's no, I don't think there's any difference in these marks. It's just here are some of the colours that they think is nice. I think that's how it's going to work, rather than each one of these means something. But there you go. So, we're moving a step forwards to at least having some sort of structure to IoT devices that they need to subscribe to a certain set of rules. This was a really interesting thing, saw on LinkedIn of all places. Now, if you've ever been down London's Oxford Street, you'll know what a mess it is at the moment. Maybe because of COVID, maybe there's a few other things going on, but there's lots of sort of low value American candy stores that don't even really sell American candy either. But there's a sort of a blight. It is ruining the actual sort of the gravitas, shall we say, of Oxford Street. So there's a new proposal. It's going to be, I think, something like a couple of years before this actually gets put into motion. But they're saying that if you are an innovative startup, and this is what I thought was really interesting, it's all about innovation. If you are a startup and you think, actually, I could do with a free 6 months rent-free and supported spot on Oxford Street, then there is a program where you need to supply, or basically subscribe to. So I thought that was brilliant. How do you revitalise inner cities? Well, possibly with the most innovative companies out there who can then prove why they would be good for the environment and also good for the local customers as well. So I like that. If that's you, then please sign up to that. This is persistent surveillance. Now, this was actually something that I heard about on a podcast called Radio Labs podcast. If you are not a current subscriber of Radio Labs podcasts and you like these sorts of things, then you really need to be. It is right up your street. However, there was a Radio Labs podcast a couple of years ago, and it was talking about persistent surveillance. And what that is when you know about it, it kind of makes sense, but it's also super creepy. The podcast had a recent update because there has been some experiment, shall we say, where this is a military type of application, and it's come to the physical world, or the public world. Now, what this does is you have persistent surveillance. It could be helicopters, it can be aeroplanes, it could be drones, and what they do is they keep taking photographs almost semi-live of what's going on below. If, for instance, something happens, somebody steals a car, somebody breaks into a house, or somebody lets off a missile, then what you can do is you can see that happening, and because you've captured the previous week or the previous month, you can then go, right, let's track back the car that actually was stolen. Where did the people get out of the car to steal the other car? Where did they drive to next? And therefore you can solve those crimes. Now, in the civilian world, this has a huge amount of issues and problems, and that's pretty much what the podcast is about. So if this is new to you, I guess you knew there was surveillance going on, but knowing what it can do and how it works is really fascinating. So definitely click on the link, it's in the description, and sign up to Radio Labs. You won't be disappointed. And finally, this is mind-blowing. So if you know about the game called Terraria, it is sort of, the bad way of describing it, it's like the 8-bit 2D version of Minecraft, and you can sort of craft what you do, but you basically play the game. And within the game there are these things called wirings, or there's a wiring feature where you can make, if you know what you're doing, some logic gates, so ands, ors and nans and all that sort of thing. So if there's a good example here, if two inputs go high, one goes low, and you can open a door and do all that sort of thing. If you chain those together, essentially you've got logic gates, and therefore you've got a computer. So somebody has spent 6 months creating the monstrosity you see in front of you now, and creating all of those gates, which created a 32-bit computer, and that 32-bit computer can then be used, as you can see, to play Pong, or to play the game of life, which is what you're seeing here. It's always good to see that as well. So that is just mind-blowing. Anyway, I just thought that was worth a shout out for the person who did that. This person here, I applaud you and all of your madness. So well done for that. Definitely worth a look at the YouTube if you're into it as well. Hopefully it was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. If it was, give it a like and all that sort of stuff. And I will see you